What is up, everybody? Welcome to almost what's going to seem like the first episode of Shape the Podcast, but welcome to a brand new episode of Shape the Podcast. Glad to be back after a month off. The month of March was really long, so I just needed to take a month off just to refresh and just get myself prepared for tonight. Because tonight is the night that I finally get to share my story and really the real purpose of why I started Shape the Podcast. All right. So let's just play this real quick and then we'll get to it. How about it? All right, welcome back again. Yes, what's up, Andy Johnson? Thank you for joining me in the comments. I appreciate it. Big thank you again to Jake Johnson for making that intro video for me back a couple months ago. But yeah, the month of March, man, it was a great month. The beginning of March, Shape the Podcast, along with Andy Johnson, Honest Amish, and a bunch of our friends. We were all involved in an event for the bearding community, right? Which was a great event. It was a sign and tattoo beard and mustache competition. It was benefiting a group called Flock, and we all came together and raised over $4,260 for them via the competition. But then on top of that, another $700 was donated via a special tattoo flash that was done by Tattoo Charlie and Mr. Tattoo Augusta, one of Aaron's tattoo artists, and then Jared Menace of White Oak Bridge Supply had a beard oil that he was selling. So 50% of that proceeds also went to Flock. So that was another $100 and something. So altogether, over $5,000 was raised for Flock that first weekend of March. So, and then I just need a couple weeks to just decompress, get things together. Those of you who watch Talking Beards know that I've been filling in from time to time on Talking Beards. Well, now they got an awesome guest co-host called, well, he's not really a guest co-host. He is a co-host along with Aaron now, Mr. Sean Glander. So, and thank you to Talking Beards for letting me air on their network. What's up, Jeff Harris? Thank you, brother. Don Wayne, love you. Chicken God, I believe that's probably Will. What's up, sir? And Jared Mass, nice to see you. So, I normally have a guest on. All right, everybody knows it. Those of you who've seen the podcast by now know that I normally have a guest. But when I first wanted to start this podcast back in August, the first episode was going to be just me telling my story. Well, at that particular time, I did not feel that I was ready yet to let my story be known. So I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And then I just had a bunch of people say, hey, when are you going to tell your story? And so I thought, why not make the first episode after a month off making my story? So let's begin. So, everybody knows me, Kyle Waller. You know me in the bearding community, but a lot of you don't really know me. See, I was born January 27th, 1979, born in the Nashville, Tennessee area. I, along with my twin brother, we are both adopted. I unfortunately did not know who my birth mom was, nor my birth dad. I just know that my birth mom died of breast cancer. And so with that, because of that, um, me and my brother were taking, because my wife is having the night off, but don't worry, she'll be back. Um, but you know, along with my birth mom dying, me and my brother were taken 3 months early. Um, so we were both 3 months premature. At that time, the time of our birth, I weighed 2 pounds and 15 ounces. Okay. Um, I can tell you, the doctors had told um, my parents, who were my foster parents, my adopted parents, they told them, they said, you could take his brother, my brother, Caleb. They said, you could take him, but leave Kyle. Kyle's not going to make it. He's not going to survive. Um, he's going to be a failure to thrive baby. Okay. So I already had, the cards stacked against me, being 2 pounds and 15 ounces. I've already had those cards stacked against me that way. Well, um, my parents decided, no, we're not going to leave him at the hospital. My parents are very religious. My whole family is very religious, and we'll get to that later on. But they took me home. They took me home. Me and my brother. So they adopted me and my brother and my sister. They adopted us all from the same family. Okay. Um, need to say, my adopted parents already had 4 kids of their own. So here they are. They have 4 biological kids, and they adopted 3 of us. All right. I see you, Mark. I see you, Thad. What's up, guys? So they adopted 3 of us. And so here we are. We're adopted. Um, you know, things. I tell you, if it wasn't for people really caring and people praying, and I'm not a religious guy. I'm a very spiritual guy, but I believe that prayer does work. Um, if it wasn't for people praying, I don't think I would be here. Um, I exceeded everything the doctors had said. Like, um, again, they told me I wasn't going to be able to read, write, talk, nothing. They told me I wasn't going to be able to play an instrument, and I was in band in high school. But yeah, so all that was good. As a kid, I tell you, being in a religious household, my upbringing was great. Um, really didn't have that tough of a time. Just the normal kid stuff. Like getting in fights with my brother. Um, you know, yeah, just done with that. But I had a biological sister who unfortunately had some mental stuff wrong with her, um, and so that childhood with me and my brother and dealing with her, it wasn't the best. There were times when she tried to hurt us really bad. There were times when she tried to hurt my parents really bad. Um, so no, so we had to deal with that. So that's nothing. Um, we got through that. Unfortunately, her issues were way too big for my parents to deal with. So my parents gave her back to the state, and she went back to state. Foster. Um, but yeah, so growing up, um, I was the kid that was always at church every Wednesday, every Sunday. Did the whole church thing because my mom played the organ in the church. Um, so that's where I thought I belonged. Well, during that process of it all, um, and just growing up, I started to develop an attitude. I started to develop a temper. Um, Needless to say, that temper got me in a lot of trouble when I was a kid. Um, but I also got picked on simply because of, you know, well, I'm a Waller, right? Everybody who I went to school with knew who the Wallers were. You know, my older siblings, uh, all of them graduated. We all went to the same schools pretty much our whole entire life. So everybody knew us. Well, I was the runt of the family. I had a twin brother who was, and still is, and I hate to say this about my own brother, but he's not the nicest guy in the world. Right? He's kind of a, I don't know, conceited jerk. Let's put it that way. And so he picked on me a lot. Well, because he picked on me, I got picked on a whole bunch uh, in middle school and in high school. Um, Got in a lot of fights. Right? My mom would actually keep me out of school someday because she felt sorry for me because of um, how bad I was being picked on. You know, um, but then again, you know, that's just something that we dealt with. I dealt with growing up as a kid. You know, but I let I let all that get to me. I I let my frustrations build up. I let my attitude build up and my anger, and I just started fighting back. Um, I remember I was in band and I was in a high school jazz band, and I told the lead trombone player, his name was Michael, I said, "Hey man, I won't be able to make it to jazz band practice this afternoon. I got something going on." Well, needless to say, oops, sorry, it was really light in here, so I had to turn my ring light on. Uh, thank you, Brian. I love you too, man. Needless to say, this guy was just as much as an asshole as I was. Um, well, he proceeded to pick me up and throw me across the room. Right? Um, this guy was a senior in high school. I was like a sophomore in high school. Um, but at that particular time, that kind of changed my uh, attitude as a fight or flight. I didn't get hurt. Right? He was all scared that he wasn't gonna be able to graduate high school. He tried to be my buddy after that, but that all changed my whole attitude. So I started fighting back. All right, these fights that I would start in high school, I started fighting back. Well, as I became an older adult, um, I ended up getting kicked out of my house. Um, asked to leave just because I'd done some things that you know one should never do to their parents, like steal money. You know, um, so I left. I got kicked out, and my brother um, didn't want to see me like live on the streets per se. So we got our own apartment together. That's when the fun really started. Because I don't know if any of you have ever lived with your siblings before outside of living at home, and especially with a brother who just thinks he's the man, you know, that has this. So you get two guys that you got one guy who thinks he's the man that has this attitude problem, and then you got another guy who's got another attitude problem. So we started butting heads. We fought all the time, um, and it just got really crazy. Well, um, my brother also plays a very vital, important role in me growing up um, the way I did. So, and I don't really want to talk about this but it's a very vital, important thing. One day, I come home from work. I'm working and living in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and my parents rarely ever came over to our apartment. Because they know, that the apartment was really never that clean. Well, I mean, we were two single guys, living like bachelors, so it wasn't that clean. So my parents had never came over. They never did. Well, I get home from work and my mom and dad are sitting outside in the car. I knew something was wrong. Like I just had like this idea that something was going on, and I didn't know what. Well, um, I get in the car and I talk to them, and they're like, "Hey, do you know where your brother's at?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know where my brother's at. Like I saw him this morning when I left for work. told them, I would see them after I got off work, and they're like, well, your brother's in jail. He's been arrested. I'm like, oh, okay. Um, what my brother did to get arrested, um, I'm not proud of. It's kind of hurt my relationship with him a little bit. But he spent 5 years in prison for what happened. Okay? So here I am, living with him. We have our apartment in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and I up and moved to Clarksville, Tennessee, because the girl I was seeing was going to college there. I had been, going back and forth because of that. So I moved to be closer to Valerie. Right? What's up, Bridget, Jake? Hey, how's it going? And yes, I was a little guy, and not I am a big boy, and I love you too, Brian. Right? Who's watching over on the YouTube? Right? So moved up to Clarksville, Tennessee, because I was dating a girl named Valerie up there. Um, had never really lived on my own, like I said. With family is one thing, but when you live on your own, totally different. Well, started partying. Not really drugging, just partying a lot. I had a place near Austin P State University, which I was there every single day anyway. So I would just party, party with the fraternity guys. Um, so that's really what started my journey going downhill. Um, living out on my own, I discovered alcohol. Right, it became my friend faster than anything in this whole entire world. So of course I was going out every single night of the week. I was going out, but yet I was also um, able to work. Right, so I would go to work the next day with hellacious hangovers, but I was going to work. So um, I'm doing all that, and just I don't know. It didn't, life didn't feel right. Me and Valley had broken up. Uh, Things just weren't going the way that I want them to. So, um, I decided that I would up and leave. I moved to a state that nobody knew me. Right, and I moved to Louisville, Kentucky. All right, everybody sees it. It's on my arm. All right, it's one of the really the city that taught me to grow up as a person per se, but also the city where a lot of my trouble started. Um, so I moved to Louisville, didn't know anybody, and just again started partying left and right. Started just going out every single night. Um, early mid 2000s. I got into DJing, so I was DJing at an after hours bar, and then I started DJing at a bigger dance club that was in like the heart of Louisville, um, on the outskirts of the downtown area, but close enough to where every Friday and Saturday night it was jam packed. So that was my thing. I started DJing in Louisville. Of course, then came the drugs. Well, um, weed was never my thing, but cocaine was sure a hell of a drug. All right. So I would do like an 8 ball worth of cocaine um, before I went out and DJ because of course, it's going to keep me up all night long. I need something to keep me up and get me going throughout the night. So I would do that, but on top of that, I would also start drinking. Right, uh, alcohol and cocaine is not a great mix. There were a couple of times when I was DJing at the club and the after hours club that I just couldn't make it through my whole entire set. Um, there was one time I got so drunk and I was so high on cocaine that the the owner was like, "No, you can't DJ tonight. There's no way in hell that you're gonna DJ tonight." Um, so I almost lost my DJing gig because I had was getting so bad in the cocaine and alcohol. Well, I stop all that because I meet this woman who I started dating, um, and that was a relationship that really kept the drinking and drugging going because this woman was addicted to opiates, um, and she loved them. She would crush them up and snort them, and yeah, and at this time, you know, the drinking got to be so bad that I literally in Louisville, the bars close at 4 o'clock in the morning, but they also open up at 9 o'clock in the morning for breakfast. I would go to the bar. I remember this bar like it was nothing. It's called the Sunset Cafe and Grill. Me and the woman I was dating, we would go there at 9 o'clock in the morning and stay there all day long till 4 o'clock in the morning the next day. All right. Um, albeit some days, of course, we had to work. But again, cocaine and alcohol kept me going. You know, um, at one point in this relationship, it was so bad that me with my temper and me being high all the time, and then this woman being high all the time, it got pretty tumultuous. Um, never got physically like bad, but mentally it got pretty terrible. Um, you know, it was not cohesive to any one of our lifestyles, but that's what we knew. And me not knowing anybody living in Louisville, Kentucky, that's what I knew. You know, um, 3 times during that process, um, I tried to take my own life. Oh, whew, this is gonna be hard. One of those times was right after I found out that my granddad had passed. It was Easter, and I can't remember the year, but I had called my mom and dad, who I had not talked to in years, um, called them, to see how they were doing. Because here again, I'm living in Louisville and I'm drinking and drugging, so family was nowhere um, near on my mind, you know. Nor did I want to. They didn't know my phone number. They didn't know how to get a hold of me. They just knew that I was living in Kentucky. My papa and my mama, besides my dad, besides my mom, they were two of the greatest human beings that I have ever known. Right? And of course, at this time, It's just, you know, them and my parents. That they were the two great, you know, they were the greatest human beings. Well, I called home and I asked how everybody was doing, you know, and that's when my mom had told me that my papa had passed 6 months earlier. I didn't know this, you know. I wasn't there. I didn't get to be there, you know, because I was doing what I wanted to do. Uh, my own brother, who was in prison because of his actions, got to go to the viewing. He got to be there. You know, somebody who's in prison got to go to the viewing and say goodbye to his grandfather. But because of my addictions at the time, I I didn't get that. So that was pretty tough. You know, um, I then decided that I would try to build a relationship with my family, and I tried, but I really didn't want it. You know, because I started drinking and drugging again. You know, because that's all I knew. Well, the woman who I was seeing um, decided that she would get sober and she would start, going to AA and NA and you know get get her life together. Okay, so that gave me one or two options. If I really liked this woman, if I really loved her, like I said I did at the time, I would either A, get sober, you know, or B, I would just continue partying, but I couldn't be with her. So she got sober. Um, she went to an awesome place called the Healing Place in Louisville, Kentucky, which I will tell anybody if you're dealing with any type of alcohol or substance abuse and you want to get help for it, get help for it. You know, don't let it fuck your life. I hate to use the F bomb, but don't let it take you away because I saw way too many people when I was in the madness of my addictions to take it away. It took me to being homeless because she got sober and I didn't want to. So I became homeless. Um, I was staying on couches, living on the streets, living in stairwells. So the apartment we had was in a very old house, and part of that house had like servants stairs because it was like an old house to where um, it had servants. Well, underneath the stairs that the servants used, there was a little closet, like a little storage closet. Well, that's where I would stay at night. She didn't know I was staying there. Um, I found a blanket on the street, and I was living underneath the stairs in the house that we had an apartment out of. Albeit, still drinking, still drugging. She's out doing her thing, the sobriety thing. Well, I decided I would give sobriety a try. I was at a bar called the Phoenix Hill Tavern. I'll never forget this. October the 9th of 2007. Right, was singing karaoke and was drunk as sin. I mean, I was drunk. I was drunk and high on probably cocaine at the time. Um, and one of my favorite songs was a song called "Fix You" by Coldplay. I, I don't know if any of you guys know that song, ever heard of it, but I decided I would sing that song, for karaoke. That particular night, October 9th, 2007, that song hit me like no other. Um, but to just back up a little bit from that, um, you know, like I said, I didn't want to get sober. I didn't want to stop using alcohol or drugs. But that particular night, it it got me. It got me to where I needed to do something. I needed to get my life straight. I needed to do stop hanging around the people that I was hanging around with. Um, so I walked out of the Phoenix Hill Tavern, and 2 days later, October 11th of 2007 was the first time that I stepped a foot inside of an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Um, Met some great people in AA. Great people who to this day are my friends and mentors. Uh, One of those guys has since passed away. His name was Brent Wesley. Um, Great man, great individual. Helped me more than he probably will ever know. Uh, Another great guy by the name of Keith. Uh, Keith, if you watch this, man, thank you for being a vital part of my life at that particular time. Um, but Keith was one of those guys who helped me a lot. Helped me discover really, that at the time I thought alcohol wasn't my issue. Um, and helped me grow up a little bit. Um, but again, that wasn't stopping me from doing what I want to do. Because I would have bouts of sobriety. I would go months of being sober. I would go years of being sober, and then I would start using it again because I started surrounding myself with those people. Well, during that time, I started dating another young lady, um, and me and this lady, her name was Juanita. Um, we got close, and to the point to where I thought that, hey, she's gonna be the one. You know, um, she wasn't the one, thank God. But at this particular time, I started building that foundation again with my family. You know, um, but it wasn't 100% there. It wasn't there all the way. I remember that we were headed down to Western Kentucky. We were going to see KG Elephant and Japanese Schoolgirls and the Manchester Orchestra. I believe that's the name of the bands. They were all playing at the WKU stadium. Well, um, my phone rings. All right, my phone rings, and it's my twin brother, who I hadn't really talked to. He's out of prison, and he says, "Hey, um, what are you doing right now?" I was like, "Well, I'm, just outside of Louisville, head down to Bowling Green, Kentucky. We're going to a concert." And he's like, "Nope, you're not." He goes, "I need you to turn around, uh, pack some clothes, you, and I'll meet you in Bowling Green, but you're coming home because Dad's dying." Again, remember earlier when I said that my dad, my grandpa, my grandma, my mom were very meaningful to me? I I hadn't really had that big a relationship with my dad when I moved out. And especially with burning all the bridges I did with my family. You know, um, But my dad just happened to ask my mom where I was, and my mom said he's in Louisville. He's at home in Louisville. Um, but my dad asked to see me, so I went to Nashville. Well, went to Cottontown, Tennessee, um, which is actually where I was for Easter. Went home for Easter, which was great. Um, but went there, saw my dad for the last time. Um, Dad was 71 when he passed. He passed away with mesothelioma, lung cancer. Um, but I got to look him in the eye, right there on it in his bed, with my mom sitting there. It was just me, my dad, and my mom, and I got to tell him how sorry I was for the pain that I caused. Um, how you know how I should have been there the years that he was sick. Um, I gave him a kiss on the forehead, told him I loved him, and that I would be back to see him in the morning. My dad passed away that night, and I truly believe it's because he was waiting on me to get my ass back to Tennessee so he could see me one last time. That was an eye opener, you know. Um, that was an eye opener for me to build the relationships that I needed with my family again. You know, that was an eye opener for me to try to get my life straight. Um, it was an eye opener. So I stayed in Tennessee for about 2 weeks. At the time, I was working at a little Italian restaurant called La Rosso. Um, and Annette, the owner of that restaurant, knew where I was. She was okay with it. I mean, she treated me like I was one of her sons. Um, this, I was family to her. Um, and she treated everybody like that in the restaurant. So she said, "Hey, you stay down there as long as you need to, and when you get back, your job will still be here." You know, um, so yeah, stayed down there for 2 weeks, and then my brother brought me back up to Louisville, Kentucky at the time. Um, at that particular time, I still wasn't doing really the right thing. Um, Started drinking and drugging lesser. But I was still, doing me, doing what I wanted to do. So I left Louisville, Kentucky, moved to East Tennessee, right, to start life over because I thought a geographical cure, at least another geographical cure, would would help me out. Um, Living in East Tennessee was almost like being at home, but it didn't help. It didn't help me. You know, um, so I was there for a year and a half, almost 2 years. I was working for Oshkosh Bigosh, like the kids' clothing company. They also made overalls for men, women, whatever. They were opening up a brand new call center in Brazelton, Georgia, which was outside of Atlanta. So I up and moved to Atlanta. I up and moved to Atlanta, Georgia, you know, to be with them and help them open up this big call center that they had. Um, you know, what was it a good idea? Probably not, but I did it. Um, but then again, I did the only thing I knew what to do. I was at the bar every single night. You know, um, that's that was my hanging out. You know, um, but yeah, stayed there for 2 years. Then moved back to Louisville, Kentucky. Um, didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. Um, tried to commit suicide again by overdosing um, on alcohol, on cocaine. I had my stomach pumped numerous times, um, but didn't feel like I just was lost. You know. Fast forward, all right, to when I started my bearding journey, because I started my bearding journey in Louisville, Kentucky, 2014 with the Derby City Whisker Club. That man, those guys. First guy I met was a guy by the name of Steven. I met him um, because I had a beard, and I was like, man, I found this group of guys on Facebook, Derby City Whisker Club. Let's see what they're all about. You know. Um, so my first event with them was the St. Patrick's Day Parade, 2014. Not the best thing to do as your first event, but so that started my bearding journey. And then I met guys like Brian Coyne, who I consider a brother. Who's I know for a while. You know, um, met him, met a good group of other individuals. You know, so then I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, because I was dating a girl who lived up here in the Cincinnati area. So I moved up here to be with her. 6 months after I moved up here, we broke up. Um, but at that particular time, I had a good friend named Robbie who lived up here, who still does, from Tennessee. Um, I got to start living with him. The drinking and drugging kind of subsided for a little bit. But, you know, when I went to a beard competition, I did it. I would get drunk, you know. Um, and then I became very self centered, very narcissistic. Didn't think my shit stunk whatsoever. Um, and yeah, so I did that. My life changed immensely because of the breeding community. Um, I found a purpose with my facial hair, that I didn't know that people would raise money for charity. Of course, that purpose is different now because back then I was all about partying because that's what I knew. Um, Partying because that's what the breeding community used to be. It used to be one big party back in the day. Um, Now it's more charity based, and I'm glad for that. Um, but I was still doing me. You know, um, Still doing what I want to do. Got into a couple of relationships that I wasn't happy with. I mean, one was my last relationship before I met my wife was very toxic. Um, you know, and just not all around good. you know. But um, I met my wife. Um, my relationship with my wife was different, and it is different because we didn't have the proper engagement. You know, I asked her to marry me sitting in a recliner. You know, um, but she accepted me for the craziness of the breeding thing. You know, but our relationship hasn't been the best, and that's because of me. Um, I hurt her a lot, and I'm still making up for the things that I've done. But this woman that's in the other room, her and my son, that's all I'm gonna say, saved me more than anybody else. And I'm terribly grateful for it. I don't show her much that I love her often, but I do. I love her to pieces. She supports this crazy crazy breeding journey that I'm on. You know, my friends love her. You know, um, I mean Brian, I tell you, you know, uh, I think my friends love her more than they do me. But she changed my life more than anything did. You know, um, yeah, it's amazing that once you let people in your life help you more than you know it, and once you stop and realize that, fuck, you know, if it wasn't what's up, Daryl? Nice to see you, sir. Um, if it wasn't for certain things in my life that had happened, I wouldn't be here. You know, I have that relationship now with my family. You know, I'm able to be invited for Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter and other stuff and weddings. You know, I got a niece that's getting married in a couple months, and I'm invited to that. But that's all because I made and I am making the changes that I need to make to be a better Kyle. I can sit here in a room with alcohol less than, I don't know, 50 feet away, like over like 100 bottles of alcohol, looking at them, collecting dust, not even wanting to drink because I know that's not what I am today. You know, my purpose is better. I still have a lot of work ahead of me. You know, I still got a lot of work that I need to do to make my life better. And doing this podcast is one of those. Because really, that's why I started this podcast, is because everybody's got a story. Damn it. Why did you have to say that in the comments? Everybody has a story. We just need a She'll be quiet now. Everybody has a story. We just need to an outlet to sometimes share that story. Thanks, Cassie. Cassie was one of my coworkers at company that we worked for called ACT in Johnsonville, uh, Johnson City, Tennessee. Yeah, there's so much to my story that I left out simply because it's just too much, and maybe one day I'll share that. And a lot of you that are on here know the parts that got omitted, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, that's why I create this podcast. I created this podcast for people who know that no matter what you're going through, that you have a purpose in life. You know, don't give up. All right. Yeah, that's right, Don. So yeah, so I'm still in the bidding community, but that's not my purpose anymore. Um, I'm not the same Kyle that that I was years ago. You know, um, Brian Coyne can attest to you. I'm not the same Kyle. I'm not. Aaron Johnson, who's probably watching right now, can attest to you. I'm not the same Kyle that I was. But that's because I surrounded myself with people who were doing good shit every single day. I surrounded myself with people who care and want to see me succeed. You know, yeah. Well, the high school Kyle was a little bit different. Thank you, Andy Lee. But yeah, I was a little bit different in high school. But I'm not a dick anymore. That's right. I'm not. But I surrounded myself with people who want to see me succeed. I surrounded myself with people who are doing good in their lives. You know, um, and so that's my passion. This is my passion. But what I'm doing right now with you on here on a Friday night, um, letting it all be raw. This is my passion. I work in an industry now that I love. I work for a brewery. I know it's hard to believe that a guy who thought alcohol was the answer. It's hard to believe that I can work in a brewery now. Because to me, alcohol was never my problem. I was putting myself in situations that alcohol was involved in. I was surrounding myself with dicks and just downright people who were just you know losers. Let's just say that. But I can sit here today and be a better human being, and that's all because of having people that I believe in and that believe in me. And yes, by the way, those of you who don't know, you can find this podcast on YouTube as well. Since Brian just said something, you can find it on the Talking Beards Network on YouTube. That's where you can find all their shows at. You can also find them on Facebook. But we would like it if you would go to YouTube and subscribe to Talking Beards on YouTube. Because, well, maybe one of these days Talking Beards may not be on Facebook and it might just be on YouTube. Um, so yeah, go over there and like and subscribe to Talking Beards on YouTube because Aaron and the whole Sean Big Sexy Glender, they're doing great things over there on YouTube. But yeah, whew, I did it. I survived almost an hour. Right? Can't believe. Again, thank you, uh, thank you all for believing in me. Thank you all for tuning in every other Friday night to listen to somebody's story. I can tell you, it's not going away. Um, it's just beginning. All right. Next episode will be on the 19th. I'm gonna have a young lady on by the name of Nikki Rizzola, who has an amazing story and also a amazing organization that she is starting. But you can actually hear her on the Talking Beards this Tuesday at 8 p.m. So this coming up next Tuesday after the big eclipse, you can hear Nikki on Talking Beards with Aaron and Sean. But yeah, like I say, every single episode we're on end. If you need somebody to talk to, you just want to talk, you just want to vent, reach out to me. If you're going through shit and you don't know what to do, don't give up because you have a purpose in your life. We all do. All right. Awesome. See, look, do what Daryl did. Daryl just subscribed to Talking Beards on YouTube. Thank you, Daryl. And man, well, thank you all again for being a part of this. Because really, really, I couldn't do this without you all. Please share the page. Share this Shape the Podcast page. Heck, share this episode. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. I appreciate you all very much. So some of you I will probably see tomorrow up in Indiana. Me and Krista are heading up to Plymouth, Indiana for a beard competition tomorrow because that's what I do. I do that stuff, But yeah, and if I don't see you tomorrow, you'll see me on the Facebook. But tune in again, April the 19th. Nikki Rizzola will be on, and it's going to be a great evening on April the 19th. But love you all. Appreciate you. Be good, do good, and talk to y'all later. Have a great night.